get that applause this morning. Yeah, somebody related to me. Good. I suppose I need the microphone? Yes. Okay. Kim, are you ready?
We're ready.
Hello, everybody. You get the second playing of the town hall meeting, so you get the perfected version. It's funny, me standing up here brings back memories, because the last time I stood up here in front of the membership was my first day here, where we did 7 sessions of introduction and talking about the acquisition by Troon over 2 days. Thankfully, I only have 2 of them today. I'm glad to be standing up here in front of you this year compared to last year, which was all virtual. And I see all of you read my overflow letter because you figured you wanted to come and show me what overflow looks like. I will say it's been quite the year. Last year we thought it was a year unlike any other, with COVID-19 impacting all of our worlds. But this year, in my mind, tops last year. This year we've had more obstacles to face in our path than last year, than just COVID. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. As in the past, my agenda for the meeting is going to begin with some of those that I want to thank. I'll state some of my personal goals relative to the clubs. I'll review some survey results with a comparison to each of the past 2 years. I'll go over the past year relative to all of our amenities and to our services, leading into a look at 2022 in all of our areas. I'll then touch on several of the membership programming changes for 2022 and show a comparison to some of the competitive set for golf and our other amenities. And I'll certainly leave time for questions. Okay, to start, I have a few thank yous to those who helped make the clubs the special place that they are. First, to you, the membership. Your support, suggestions, observation, feedback, all of the above are all so very helpful to me and our team. I really do my best to listen, and with more than 6,000 members, spouses included, you can imagine the number of emails I receive, particularly after one of my update letters gets emailed to you, or after I send an email about overflow. I provided updates in my letters as to how we continued to react to the various decisions made relative to the pandemic, and how we continued to do our best to keep you and our valuable associates safe. After most of my updates, I tend to receive upwards of 100 emails with support, questions, and suggestions, many suggestions. I really do try to answer them all, and if I haven't, it was more of an oversight with certainly no intent to ignore. I also try to be as honest and transparent as possible with my answers, even though sometimes my answer may not be exactly what you want to hear, but I figure you'll appreciate my honesty rather than appeasing you and then not being able to deliver. Our committees. They help to guide us as a management team, and they too take feedback from members, and they try to get a feel for what the membership wants. In fact, there are plenty of times that we ask the committee members to ask friends and acquaintances for feedback on a particular item, particular issue, and as we work to make an educated and informed decision. The advisory committee is chaired by Barry Barnett and is comprised of each of the 3 committee chairs. Sport committee by Deb Chiarello, House by Rob Zakierski, and Golf by Tim Hogan. Up to 2 other members from each committee also serve on the advisory. You can see from the slide the different members of the advisory committee and then the various committee members. Meetings are normally held once per month, and the advisory and the executive committee alternate months. The executive committee is comprised of the committee chairs myself, the POA President, Jerry Iverson, and Dave Flinchbaum, my assistant. Minutes for these meetings can be viewed on the club's website. A huge thank you to Troon Associates. Again, this is a year that we have never seen in our lifetimes. During our normal peak season, we employ roughly 300 associates. Finding quality staff is a theme you're going to hear a lot about today. It's a monumental challenge for us, and there's no question it's become our greatest challenge. I feel thankful and fortunate to have the team and the family of staff that we have. Their commitment, loyalty, dedication, and hard work that they've exhibited not only throughout this year, but since my arrival 4 years ago, has been remarkable. They've done everything we've asked of them, particularly when it comes to keeping you, the members, and themselves safe. It hasn't been easy at all, risking exposure to others and themselves, but they've stepped up like they never have before. They truly make or break the success of our operations, and they're a huge reason for the successes that we enjoy. They are so much a part of what makes the club so special, and I can assure you that their efforts are greatly appreciated. My management team. I've said this since my arrival. I'm so fortunate to have taken on my position with such a professional and qualified management team in place. It's not common in the club management world for there to be so little turnover in the management team after 4 years. We've only had, of the executive team, 2 members of that executive team have changed. Chef and our controller. I give that team tremendous credit for adapting to my management style and performing as well as they do. Dave Flinchbaum, my assistant, he's been here for 16 years and he helps to give me every bit of background on any issue that comes our way. Dustin Strickland, our director of agronomy, now in his 4th year. Dave Chiomi, KJ, our director of golf, who's been here 23 years. Lindsay Krause, our director of food and beverage, who's been here 13 years. Pete Holderide, our executive chef, who's finishing up his 3rd year. Tammy Stevens, our controller, she's finishing up her 2nd year, but has been with us for 17 years. And our membership director is Becky Jones, who's been with us 27 years, and Chantel Piagione, who's now in her 4th year. While they represent the executive management team, we have such a great secondary management team of superintendents, golf pros, chefs, restaurant managers, banquet managers, tennis pros, athletic director, HR director, and our director of communications. And our slide turner, Brendan. Thank you to all of them for helping to make my job easier. Troon Corporate. Troon is the largest management company, club management company, for good reason. They really are that good. The expertise, support, and resources that they provide is huge. And honestly, we would not be able to do everything we do without all of that support. Troon's Executive Vice President and COO, Bruce Glasgow, he's my boss. He provides tremendous support, and during the past year on multiple occasions, we've called upon corporate specialists in agronomy, course design, finance, insurance, IT, food and beverage, membership and marketing, risk management, and procurement. Very helpful to say the least. Since COVID began, I can't imagine being able to operate the way we have without the help of Troon Corporate. Apologies and accountability, otherwise known as the year of the unprecedented. Last month, the People's Choice for the most overused word of the year was voted upon, and it was unprecedented. I'm going to join in that parade, and I quote, "The pandemic, the protests, the presidential election, extreme climate episodes, 2020 sent us searching for a word that could do justice to the scale and pace of all this upheaval." Now, I'm not going to get into any of all the other stuff other than pandemic. But there's no doubt we have had our own unprecedented year. Again, with the pandemic as the headliner. Other unprecedented issues that we faced include staffing, supply chain, inflation, Beacon 315, and the dreaded overflow. Just when we all thought we were out of the so-called woods, the pandemic returned, resulting in all the associates being mandated to return to mask wearing indoors. Just this past week, we learned that big businesses, which Troon certainly qualifies, will require all associates to be fully vaccinated by January 4th, or get tested on a weekly basis. Troon Legal is still pouring through all the details before providing their final direction to us and the rest of their properties. We all feel very fortunate to live in the St. James bubble. Pandemic remains a very real issue for all of us. Like in the community, you may not hear how many actual cases there are week to week. I can tell you it remains a constant concern right now among all of our associates. We deal with positive tests, contact tracing exposures, symptoms each and every week. And it's amazing that we've not yet had to adjust schedules for any of our amenities. It's ongoing every week. We even put in a vaccination incentive for our associates to become fully vaccinated. I'll touch on our survey results in just a bit, but I'll be honest, it's been a real rough year in many ways. And I'm going to touch on what made it so tough with explanations. Otherwise, they could be seen as excuses. I'll just say I'm not real happy with the way the year has gone. I'm not pleased with the survey results, and I'll stand up here and I'll own them. I'll also stand here and tell you we are going to make next year a better year. I'm a real competitive person, and I don't like to lose or to not perform as well as I or we think we are capable of performing. There are areas that we can absolutely improve upon, and it won't be easy because there are some areas where we continue to fight an uphill battle, like staffing. But I know one thing, we're going to put in the hard work and the time necessary to make improvements. So, my goals. Some of my goals remain from prior years, and based on this past year, I certainly have some new goals. I want to keep providing good, solid communication to you, the members, with complete honesty and transparency. I try to do this through regular emails every several weeks and through our weekly departmental updates. With my regular communications, as mentioned before, I do receive quite a few emails from the members, and it's my job to have a finger on the pulse of the membership. And these emails, along with my regular visits to all of our amenities, seeing the members and the staff help me to do that. Listening is a big part of my job. Achieving consistency in food and beverage remains a huge goal, and I'll certainly touch on that later. I do my best to create a positive culture among our associates, feeling that it all starts with me and it filters down. I still do my best to get to all the clubhouses and facilities on a regular basis, to touch base with the managers and the staff, and they know that my door is always open and I'm receptive to visits and input from all of them. One of management's goals is to build a winning team and to create growth potential for our associates, whether it be within the clubs or within Troon. Finding staff within this region is not always easy, so it's important to take current staff and management and improve upon their talents and their skills. We promote from within, and with our size, we're able to help other Troon managed properties by sending managers to assist. Again, trying to create the positivity in the current atmosphere is not at all easy, as we are seriously short-staffed in many departments. I continue to work closely with the POA and with the town to provide the best experience possible for members and residents. Jerry Iverson, the president of the POA, Mayor Gene Toner, and Dan Kingsbury and Jay Atkinson, who represent the developer in the St. James Real Estate Group, they're all great to work with. Establishing the Troon brand has become vital to our success in recruiting in the region. When residents outside the gates of St. James, potential associates for Troon, think of St. James, they think of you. And they don't think necessarily of Troon and the clubs. And I know, and you all know, what a wonderful community of members and residents we have, and how much all of you contribute to various charities and organizations within the county and the community. But Troon, and Troon represents the third largest employer in Brunswick County, we need to do a better job of making our potential employees aware of this with local schools, towns, and charities. We will continue to work hard to provide good value for the dues dollar for our various amenities. As you can imagine, we'll spend time and money on recruiting, retaining, and growing our own talent. And again, you'll hear me talk about staff quite a bit today. We have some facilities that are getting older and need attention, so we'll develop strategies to upgrade and refresh some of those facilities most in need. Lastly, and certainly not least, we intend to address and find ways to alleviate the overflow challenges that we currently have on the T-sheets. Survey results. Could I have somebody in the back please read them for everybody? All right, I'll do my best to explain what's on the screen there. This year there were just shy of 2,500 surveys returned to us. In survey speak, that's a real large sampling of just under 50% of the total possible surveys sent out. I think that's terrific because it shows me that you, the membership, care by sharing your thoughts on how we're performing. That's important. Thanks to my assistant Dave for reading all the survey comments and compiling them in summary form so we can distribute them to our management team and take action. That is still underway. As you know, the survey deadline was about a week and a half ago, a little more than a week ago, so he is still working on that. As in the past, resident members represented about 90% of the surveys completed. Golf members represented slightly less than half of those surveys, with social at just above 30%, and sport members also just above 20%. The key metric that we look at most closely is the NPS score. That's Net Promoter Score. After 2 years, when the NPS was in the 40 range, which is generally pretty good, we suffered a decline to just above 17, which, as I said earlier, I'm not happy about. We've got work to do, even in difficult times. In digging into the numbers deeper, and this is pretty interesting, when you look at the NPS by member type, both social and sport member satisfaction improved, but the scores from golf members took a significant hit. Yes, that's extremely concerning, as we recognize that overflow and course conditions played a huge part in that decline. I'll touch more on overflow in just a bit, with a couple more actions that we intend to take. As for course conditions, we had a couple different stretches when conditions weren't great earlier in the year. Weather played a role earlier, and we didn't react as quickly as we should have. We wound up bringing in contract labor, and we threw a lot of money at the problem by resodding worn areas, and that allowed us to recover to really good conditions. We wound up putting down 40,000 square feet of sod to respond, which, again, when you look at it, it's close to 10,000 square feet per course. So until after the conditions improved, just recently we've suffered and sustained some disease on some of the greens at Players and Founders. Those areas have been treated and they're on the mend, but the recovery is slowed because of the cooler weather. In talking to Dustin earlier today, we are talking about potentially covering just those areas, small portions, to see how they're going to react. We've seen the improvement even this past weekend when the weather was cooler. But if we can improve on the rate of recovery, we're going to be doing that. I can tell you that Dustin in particular and his superintendents, like myself, we all take our jobs very seriously, and they take the survey results and the course conditions comments personally. As challenging as this year has been, I have confidence that Dustin and his team will turn this around for the off-season and next year's season. When you add in the delays we've had with Beacon 315 and the pickleball bathroom, I fully understand why the results are what they are, and we'll be tackling these issues head on. Action items. Number 1, which we saw a year ago, get Tommy's and Beacon 315 reopened. And again, I'm going to touch on that in a moment. Complete the pickleball court bathroom. I'm going to touch on that one also. Improving housekeeping and cleanliness. We've had an outside contractor for the last 2 years, and frankly, their performance has been subpar. We've ended this contract and signed on with Silhanek, a more widely known cleaning contractor that we fully expect to see a noticeable improvement in these areas, in the clubhouses and in the fitness areas particularly, and they're going to be starting on January 7th. Improving food and beverage consistency, improving pool check-in and supervision, staffing difficulties. Again, I'm going to talk more on this one as to what we are doing, what we have done to address this. Seaside grill hours. The dinner hour was eliminated due to lack of staffing. We do intend to return the Seaside Grill to be open in the evenings. Create a sports bar with evening activities, and that kind of ties to improving clubhouse decor. I'll say members and founders in particular, but players falls into that category too. Founders is the oldest of the clubhouses, and it's showing. Members are showing too. So is players. Improving tea time availability, and I'll touch on this one later. Expansion of amenities. We have space limitations on this one, as there have been suggestions to build more pools, like in the area next to Reserve. That's land that we don't own. We don't really own more buildable land, but I'll also sit here and tell you that if and when opportunities present themselves, Troon is more than willing to listen and consider. Improving course conditions. Limit pool guests. A year ago, the comment was, you need to let guests in again. A year later, stop with the guests. And lastly, addressing the numerous neighborhood group golf events. We'll be making changes to this by charging neighborhood groups a fee to play golf as opposed to the current no fee. That is something that a number of years ago, there was a fee attached, and we're bringing that back. It used to be $10, we're making it $20. Golf courses. As I said earlier, we are in unprecedented times, and we're tracking to reach 210,000 rounds of golf again. With all those rounds being played, the courses do take more of a beating than in the past, so the scheduling of maintenance close days became more important than ever before. Those close days were huge in helping maintain golf course conditions. They allowed the golf course maintenance teams to attack course conditions in a way that they just aren't able to do when there's regular play. You'll see later, but we plan on adjusting those close days from Monday to Thursday to Tuesday to Thursday. 27 holes each of those 3 days, but no close day on Monday. That's one of the ways that we expect to see an improvement in overflow. New tee markers and yardage plates were installed. There are still some to be added to the new tees that were completed. We've added new tees and expanded some of the existing tees. New collars were installed at Reserve. 2 bridges were replaced at Members Club. Many drainage repairs were made due to age and the excessive rainfall earlier in the year. The team is using more organic and environmentally friendly fertilizer and applications to improve overall turf density and conditioning on the tees. As mentioned earlier, we replaced quite a bit of sod in high traffic and low areas due to the increased rounds and to the wet winter, using contract labor to supplement the club staff. More native grasses and wildflowers were planted to improve the out-of-play areas and increase the natural areas. And lastly, new GPS-guided sprayers have been added to ensure more accurate applications of chemicals and fertilizers. Dustin, again. In the morning session, his phone went off. 2021 golf course plans. 2022 golf course plans. There are another half dozen bridges that need attention between players, founders, and reserve courses. Dustin's in the process of getting the prices and assessing the damage and what needs to be done first. But I can tell you that there will be repair and replacement happening on a number of bridges in the off season. We plan to laser level and do slight expansion to the practice tees. A new artificial tee is planned for reserves practice facility. We are currently conducting an audit with plans to install new irrigation for founders late of 22 and early 23. More drainage improvements to address worn and unlevel areas, replacing where needed. We'll continue to make improvements to the native areas. Cart paths will be repaired where necessary. We're constructing an area for a turf nursery. Dated equipment will be replaced. We'll continue to recruit new staff and train them, and more attention will be paid to achieve greater consistency in the waste bunkers. Golf operations. First, I want to congratulate our 2021 men's and women's club champions, Sean O'Donnell and Kristen Shiflett, and our senior men's and women's champions, Karen Heiser and Kurt Mumaw. I also have to congratulate Sean O'Donnell for winning the recent Brunswick County Tournament of Champions held at Brunswick Plantation just a couple weeks ago, and to Kurt Mumaw for coming in second in the senior division. Not surprisingly, we had great participation in all of our tournaments again this year, with all of them being two-day events. Kudos to our tournament coordinator, Lee Doron, for his managing the tournaments, and to the golf/tournament committee and the handicap committees for their oversight. Not a small task. I'm pleased to announce that Lee has agreed to serve as tournament coordinator again for next year. He's done it for 2, and there's not many that take it on for more than 2. You guys know what he and they have to deal with on a regular weekly basis. He has done a great job. In all, we've had over 2,100 entries to all of the club events. We have one more official tournament this season with the Cape Cup at Players Club on Friday and Saturday this week, with approximately 200 players. We're also planning a fun Superintendent's Revenge event for the winter, which we'll announce in the next couple of weeks, the date. I can already tell you that Dustin's working on his design. With the success of last year's individual demo days, we had 15 individual demo days this past year, and again, they were very successful. It gives more personal time with you, the members, in determining what your needs are with your golf clubs. In addition, we have had 2 club trade-in days compared to just 1 last year. The second is this coming weekend with more than 70 already reserved. I want to recognize our members' assistant pro and honored veteran Ben Wilson, who again spearheaded the 100-hole event and helped raise more than $52,000. That compares to the $20,000 raised last year, which in itself is a significant sum. But hats off to all of you for the support that you have all provided. We're also pleased with Shoppers Club participation with more than 650 members in the program. So here's a breakdown of golf rounds played this year. As you can see, through October, we are well on track to finish with more than 200,000 rounds again. And of the rounds played, nearly 91% have been played by golf members, slightly down compared to last year's, because this year we do have some guests. Last year we were limited with no guests. We do have guests playing this year. Golf operations for 22, after continuous issues with club car golf cars, which is batteries, brakes, which is throttle sensors, tires. Each of the past 3-year contracts, we've had issues. We've signed a new deal with EasyGo with lithium-ion batteries for members and players. Anybody who was at the first meeting, tell them it's members and players. I said reserve, and I'm sorry, it's members and founders. Okay? Members and founders are getting the new carts from EasyGo. That's going to happen in May. We really are excited about this because we anticipate far less mechanical issues than we've had in the last number of years. Double T will start again at 8:30 in the morning in January, and will be in place for January and February, Monday through Friday. We plan again to continue with the individual manufacturer demo days based on their success in the past 2 years. All the club cup tournaments will include flights for men, women, and mixed teams. We will again hold the Senior Club Championship on a different date from the Club Championship, and we will return to the normal schedule with the Women's and Men's Cattail Classics in the spring and fall, respectively. Another exciting addition for 2022 will be the installation of top tracer technology at the Reserve Club driving range. This will be for all of the bays, and it'll allow members to use their smartphones to get all sorts of analytics on the range while practicing. Swing speed, launch angle, distance, all the things that help make your head spin. Overflow. 2 weeks ago, I sent out a letter to the entire membership about overflow. It was done in an effort to educate and inform with statistics along with ideas that have been brought forward and considered. It's important to admit that we recognize that this is a real issue, as 11.5% of the time, members are not able to play on the days they want to play. I appreciate the number of responses and suggestions I received to my letter, and I can tell you that the Chelsea point system became a very hot topic in the community. And that's why a week later, in my regular update letter, I included a link to a page of FAQs giving you the information on points and how the Chelsea system works. The pro shops received numerous phone calls inquiring about individual points and how it impacts their ability to get a tee time. Somewhere late winter, I'll say early spring before the season next year, we will have a session on Chelsea points and could be new USGA rules just to help answer questions and inform. I want to share a couple of stats that are pretty interesting. Many have assumed that the huge increase in golf memberships, many have assumed that an increase in golf memberships has been the biggest contributing factor to the reason for overflow. I will say that yes, it is a factor. But compared to pre-COVID, our members were playing an additional 24 rounds per year, from 131 to 155 in 20, which translates to nearly 30,000 rounds. Golf memberships increased by 75. That in itself translates to about 10,000 rounds. So again, combination, that's a lot more rounds than had been played, which obviously results in overflow. Another interesting statistic is in regards to recurring requests. Recurring requests make up 80% of the tee sheet when it's drawn 14 days prior. However, when the day of play arrives, only 40% of that group are on the actual tee sheet playing. I know it took a few minutes to get people off the floor after that stat in the morning. That's a lot of names who are on the original but not on the day of. Now, I can't sit here and tell you, and I don't know that particular stat impacts overflow. We're going to look at it more closely just to determine, because one of the things that it results in is, yes, a number of members will go online and make changes to their tee sheets, but a lot of them are making phone calls to the pro shops making changes as they're getting inundated day after day. Again, I don't know that that impacts overflow, but it's a pretty interesting statistic that we do have to dig deeper in when you think of less than half of those on that original tee sheet from recurring requests aren't playing. So, there have been a whole lot of ideas discussed to alleviate overflow. Putting limits on number of rounds, putting limits on number of annual kart plan rounds, putting a cap on golf members, keeping in mind that based on the purchase agreement can't happen officially until February of 23. Taking 9 holes at members, making it into an executive par 3 course. And Troon buying or managing another course in the region to take on some of that demand. And there have been more too. We made a minor tweak by moving the cancellation deadline to 8 o'clock the day before, and that helps allow the shops to pair up twosomes and free up some times for members on standby to move to the tee sheet. Again, big picture, it's a minor tweak. This past week, after quite a bit of discussion, we will be making 2 more changes effective March, when daylight savings takes effect again, and when maintenance close days go back into effect. First, as mentioned earlier, we plan on eliminating Monday close days. So there will only be 3 days impacted by course closures. Second, and more significant, is that we will be opening up 4 tee times per day, Monday to Friday, founders, players, and reserve, by encouraging those wishing to only play 9 holes to send them off the back 9. When I say back 9, we will be flip-flopping at times so that those who tend to play 9 holes aren't going to be playing the same 9 all the time. Based on estimates from the professional staff, we have anywhere from 50 to 75 golfers each morning that choose to play only 9 holes. This should reduce overflow by the number of golfers who only choose to play 9. It's not going to eliminate overflow, but it should help. I can't stand here and say that it will be eliminated, but we will continue to think through this, compile stats and analytics to help our decision making, and listen to the membership, all while trying not to upset too many with those decisions. Okay, moving on to food and beverage. Year to date, our daily covers are just more than 120,000 members and guests, which when taking away Tommy's is more than we've ever done at these outlets. Obviously, COVID continued to have effects on our food and beverage operations as we still see an increase in takeout. The mobile ordering through the club's app has helped with this. We know that members at times have had challenges getting reservations for the clubhouse restaurants when they want to dine. Unfortunately, we're not in a position to open additional restaurants. So until Beacon 315 opens, it may still be a challenge as we continue to do our best to manage the balance between accommodating as many as we can have in the restaurants with the staff that we currently have. We were able to return our summer's concert series at Seaside along with the annual Beer and Shrimp Fest. We continued to change menus every 3 to 4 months. Players Club just changed, I think it was last week. And members is changing at the end of this week, and in talking to founders, he's working on a change sometime in December. We have at times received questions as to why Seaside wasn't open in the evenings for dinner. I touched on that earlier. We just didn't have the staff to be able to open for dinner. Our greatest challenge remains consistency and quality, and it's become obvious to me that the biggest factor in our lack of consistency is a shortage of skilled culinary staff. We have an excellent executive chef with Pete. We have good chefs at each of the restaurants. They've all got the necessary skills and talent. Unfortunately, they're not the ones cooking every one of the meals. And clearly that comes down to training, but it also comes down to finding enough skilled staff. This past year, until this past month, we went pretty much the whole year without any sous chefs. Thankfully, we had 2 sous chefs start this past month, one at Reserve and one at Founders. and I'll dive in with more detail on what we're doing to recruit and to retain in a moment. But it seems that for every cook we gain, we lose one. So we just keep treading water, staying shorthanded. We've recently hired an executive sous chef, which would be the right hand for Chef Pete, and we're searching for a second so we can kind of split the restaurants between the two of them. On the front of the house side, it has been better, though as I'm sure many of you have noticed, there are quite a few new faces serving you, but still many of our more seasoned servers and bartenders are still with us. Fortunately, on the management side, we're in better shape, though we've made a few changes lately with Trey Ricks, who is now our restaurant manager at Founders. He had started as the manager at Seaside, went to Reserve as the assistant restaurant manager, came over here as the restaurant manager, and now is at Founders. And Roger Harris, who came to us and was an assistant restaurant manager floating between here and Players, and he is now here. We've also hired a second assistant F&B manager to supplement Matt Dennis under the direction of Lindsay. And his focus, similar to what I just talked about with the executive sous chefs, we're going to split the clubhouse restaurants between the two of them with more of a focus on training and improving consistency of our service. We really are trying to overcome the glut in skilled staff by having more skilled management. Chefs, executive sous chefs, these are skilled workers. Line cooks, I'll call them semi-skilled. And we're looking for line cooks too. But it's the skilled positions that we are sorely in need of. It really is as bad as I've ever seen it. But we've been able to keep the restaurants open the normal days and hours, with the exception of Seaside at night. That said, I'll stand here and tell you, we're hanging on by threads with the staff we've got. Social events. Thankfully, capacity restrictions were lifted, and we've been able to have social events again. Though in the beginning of the year, our events were still takeout. Some of the events we've had this past year were Valentine's to go and Easter to go. The summer concert series was hugely successful, with close to 400 people attending the Kids in America and the Chicago Rewind concerts. More recently, we had the live lobster pickup, the oyster dinner, peel and eat shrimp, and we've mixed in trivia nights and karaoke nights throughout the year. Coming up, we have Thanksgiving to go in 2 weeks, and keep an eye out for the New Year's Eve information. I will say that supply chain issues have had a measurable impact on some of the events. Not only was the price for lobsters higher than normal, but trying to get live lobsters for the pickup a couple weeks ago was a huge challenge. We had put our order in for 300, and our supplier the week before said, I can't get them for you. All I can get for you is soft shell. Well, those of you who eat lobster, you know there's a huge difference between soft shell lobster and hard shell lobster. So we had a deadline of 5 o'clock the Friday before, and between me and Pete and Lindsay, we were making calls to anybody and everybody, and we found a supplier up in Massachusetts. And on the day, first, and as some of those of you who got the lobsters, we had to push it a day. The reason we pushed it a day was because the lobsters didn't get on the truck when they were supposed to. When they arrived the next day, they shorted us 20, and 50 of them were dead. But we made it. For every last lobster was given, we wound up, the original supplier was able to get us 50 to replace those. But that's just an example. We're having supply chain issues with turkey for Thanksgiving. Turkey breast, a bone-in turkey breast. We're not able, our suppliers, and we're not talking local suppliers, we're talking U.S. Food and Cisco, two biggest in the country, and they can't get them. So we're getting boneless turkey breast. That's become our new reality.
go out and players watch. It's plenty of
That's true. There may not be as many, though, come a couple weeks. I sat in front of you last year with the same first and most important bullet point as I do this year. Reopen Tommy's, Beacon 315, and I'm not at all happy about that. Unprecedented doesn't begin to do the fiasco and nightmare, whatever you want to call it, justice. Since last year's meeting, Troon purchased Tommy's, and that's a good thing, because it gives us control over every aspect of the operation. That said, no doubt, and I'll tell you yes, we are now responsible for everything that's going on over there. During the year, we felt it important to rebrand, and we changed the name to Beacon 315, a fresh beginning with new ownership. I know some of you aren't happy with the name change, some are happy with the name change, many really don't care about the name change. They just want to see it open, as do I. While the construction had started early in the year, we had no reason to question the recommendation of the HVAC contractor, who was the foreman for the general contractor. There was past experience and a well-established trust when the decision was made. Based on all of that, while it may be easy to look back and say, how could we have chosen this contractor? Honestly, it's hard to think that I would do it differently. The end result is that the construction was moving along in the spring until we had to get the new HVAC equipment and the ductwork. We wound up getting strung along, and that's resulted in both a criminal and a civil lawsuit that's currently in the courts. Thus, we had to then start over, hired a new contractor, and took another 5 weeks for them to get the equipment and the ductwork. Things are now progressing at the right pace, with ductwork just a couple weeks away from completion, as the units are expected to be installed in the next week. Flooring and fire suppression is happening in the next 2 weeks, and that'll be followed by drywall, ceilings, plumbing, electrical, and the installation of kitchen equipment, bar equipment, tables, chairs, and getting everything ready, as we're looking for a grand opening in the beginning of next year. Of course, the question begs, finding enough staff to make sure we can do it. Our intent is to return to 7 days, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Members will be able to make reservations on Open Table. It will still be open for non-members, and we'll have tables available for walk-ins. I'm not happy about the delays, and if I could change it all, I would. Like everyone else, I look forward to its reopening and seeing it busy. It's good to finally see the construction activity over there every day again. What else in 22? Is there anything else? We have a few things. We do look forward to adding more variety to our club-hosted events. Our chef here, Jason, who is as southern as you will find, we are looking to have a chef's table featuring him. We look forward to having greater presence with the return of the slider provider, which was parked for much of the year because of a lack of staffing. And again, our greatest goal for 22 will focus on staff recruiting, training, and achieving consistency and quality product and service. Staffing, I want to talk about that, let you know what we have done, what we are doing. So these are the actions we've taken in an effort to recruit and retain. And with all of this, we still often feel we're treading water. But I do feel that while these actions may not be helping us right now today, they will help us later in the new year and spring and summer of 22. We've established relationships and partnerships with the following schools: Myrtle Beach Culinary Institute. They're out of the Georgetown Horry Community College, and they have a really good program down there. Brunswick Community College, which has more of a continuing education program with classes, culinary classes. Cape Fear Community College, and they have both culinary and hospitality. And Coast. Coast is a high school trade school program that's right next to the community college. and they've got a culinary piece to it, and they do a real good job, and we're hoping to attract some of the students from there. And actually, our director of HR and myself now sit on their board, so hopefully that also can help. We're attending job fairs. We're getting in front of the students in the classroom at the college level. We're paying for supplies, books, knives, uniforms. Thankfully, we're large enough to be in a position where we can do that. Offering internships and paying for credits for those who work for us through internships within the school. We're also working with Johnson & Wales in Charlotte and East Carolina's hospitality program. We also became members of the Oak Island Southport Chamber of Commerce, an effort to get the Troon Club's name out in the local towns. I talked to all of you earlier about branding. When I meet with all these people from the schools, with the Chamber of Commerce, I ask them what they know of Troon and the clubs. And they know all of you. They know St. James, but they don't necessarily know Troon and the clubs. So it's a big deal for us to get our name out there with them. H2b International Associates. This past year, because of COVID restrictions, it took a long time, it took longer to get our international associates here. We had 5 of them, 3 front of the house, 2 back of the house. Unfortunately, they left beginning of October. Our plan is to bring 12 associates, H2b associates, here in the spring. They would get to us in about May. 8 of them in the kitchen, 4 of them restaurant. We're creating a partnership with the American Culinary Federation to form our own on-site culinary apprentice program. We hired a recruiter out of Wilmington purely focused on finding skilled culinary candidates, and that has helped get us the executive sous chef that we hired and both of the sous chefs that we've brought aboard. We're creating a new position, new management position within the clubs with the sole focus to recruit, retain, and onboard and orient new staff. While their initial focus is going to be on F&B, it's going to reach out to all of our other departments as well. Some of the local schools also have agronomy programs, and Dustin and his team are doing much the same as I talked about on the food and beverage side, paying for schooling as long as as long as they stay with the school and as long as they stay with us. For retention, we've increased the hourly wages for our kitchen staff 2 different times in the last 4 months. And that represents a 35% increase to what they were making. We offer referral bonuses of $250. We offer sign-on bonuses of $200. We also remain close in contact with Troon Corporate to try to find more qualified candidates. As you can see, finding staff in our area is a monumental challenge. And we're thinking each and every day of more ways that we can recruit staff. All right, moving on to Racket Sports. As COVID restrictions lifted, intramural tennis league play continued strong, and the USTA and BCTA play returned and was as popular as ever. The annual Racket Relay was a huge success, raising more than $11,000 for local childhood cancer families. Founders courts were laser graded, which will help to improve the recovery times from heavy rains. LED lighting has been purchased and should be installed in the next 2 months at Founders. And while it seems like a long time ago, the new Reimer pickleball courts opened up just this past year. There are some repairs that are scheduled for later this month at Seaside Pickleball and courts 16, 17, and 23 at Reimer. We hired a new pickleball pro. Well, I shouldn't call her a pickleball pro. She's a rackets pro because she does tennis too. But much of her focus, Kim Mayan's focus, has been on the demand for pickleball that we have here. She's been real busy with clinics and camps that were introduced this year. The bathroom, too, has been a fiasco between permitting issues with the county, contractor delays. We're ready to cross that finish line there as the electric meter is being installed with a final inspection on the electrical and then the building inspection, and that all should happen within the next week or so. With those approved, the final electric can get connected for the lights and gate access, and the landscaping can be completed. I anticipate the bathroom to be open within the next week. 2022 Racket Sports Pro Doubles exhibition nights were successful again this year, and we look to continue them next year. Founders, players, and seaside courts will be resurfaced in the spring, and members courts will be laser graded also. We've already and we will continue to schedule our maintenance team, landscaping team differently so that the courts can be in better condition for daily play. They've got a set schedule for tamping down the lines, and this will help until the courts get resurfaced in the spring. In addition, the landscaping team and an outside contractor, Carolina Creations, will address the landscaping needs surrounding the courts. With the increased demand in both tennis and pickleball, we plan on hiring another racket pro to complement Brian, Jason, and Kim. With Founders LED lights scheduled for completion this year, we plan on doing members, players, and Seaside next year. We're looking at creating shade structures at both Reimer and Seaside pickleball courts. And of course, based on the success of the camps, clinics, and tournaments in our first year with the new pickleball courts, we're excited to continue to see them grow. 2021 Fitness and Wellness. After a very challenging year, we are pleased to discontinue the capacity limits and registration times for the use of our fitness facilities, as I'm sure you were. We were able to return to the normal schedule for aerobics classes in April, and we've ramped it back up to the more than 60 classes per week. We've continued to use Going Fit, led by the energetic Heather Wilson, and we've seen client numbers increase by 12%. Earlier in the year, we purchased new aerobics equipment to meet the demand, and Sean plans on adding more to what we already have. 2022 Fitness and Wellness. Between Sean and Heather, they will continue to follow trends and adapt programs to offer the latest in group options. We will focus on smaller group functional fitness using more resistance equipment along with more cardiovascular options. We will increase the fitness offerings to tie in with the various sports that can be played here: golf, tennis, and pickleball. And we will also add more flexibility and balanced detailed workouts designed by Sean and the training staff. Swimming pools. Yes, there's Gladys. There's a button there that if Brendan were to press it, we'd be able to hear her sing, but I don't think any of us want to hear Gladys singing. It was great to be able to operate the pools at full capacity this year. This resulted in a large increase in member and guest usage during the season. We continued to use the lap swimming reservation system, and that's really been helpful to managing the demand. We were able to discontinue the reservations for the free swim at the pools. At MAC, now that the outdoor pools have been closed, we are closely monitoring the usage and the demand for lap swimming, which currently is from 6 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m., 6 in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, with free swim after. We are leaning towards adding more lap swimming times at the end of the day between 6 and 8, but right now we're monitoring because we're only a week into the other pools being closed. The biggest disappointment and source of frustration this year with the pools was our inability to get the Chase Lounge chair strapping and the umbrellas that were ordered in April and never did arrive after multiple promises of delivery during the summer. I'm not at all happy with that, with what we had to settle for, which was inferior. But as far as 2022 swimming pools, we will have new furniture on site to supplement and replace the existing for Seaside and the other pools for 2022 season. As I mentioned, we'll continue to monitor the demand for lap swimming and keep the reservation system in place. We look forward to continuing the popular events like Adult Float Night on Friday evenings, poolside concerts, and of course the best event of the year, the Puppy Plunge, which was held just this past Wednesday. And we'll also look to incorporate some fun new events too. We definitely recognize the demand and the crowding, particularly at Seaside Pool, for space. And there are some areas in that pool complex that are just not efficiently used. You look at the sand area with the volleyball net, it really doesn't get used that much. We've got a meeting set up with an architect to discuss how better the space can be used. More so adding more area for chase lounges, and we're talking about potentially a bridge from the back parking lot that can get to the front entries. Communications. What you'll notice in these next couple of slides is that they are far more creative than the rest of the slides, and that's what you get with communications, and that's what that credit goes to Kim. Of course, the slides for in addition to the email communication that you see on a daily and weekly basis, there are other ways to stay in touch with what we have to offer. We will be adding video content to our website and social media options, as we just had a marketing firm complete video of all of our amenities, including drone footage of the golf courses. That all happened just in the last couple of weeks. They're coming back one more time as soon as Wednesday to finish their work, and that will all be incorporated into our website. Each member has their own unique online profile associated with their member number. Not only can you view what's happening on the website, you have the ability to view your monthly statements and other important club documents. You can update your profile and select which emails you wish to receive. You can view past email archives, book tee times and court reservations, make dinner reservations, and sign up for fitness classes. The club's mobile app is a direct extension of the website, and it's available on your phone or tablet anytime, anywhere. You can also sign on to the club's Facebook page, YouTube, to see videos of some of our various events. And the last slide offers an example of the communication that we have on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. I'll mention right now, before I get to membership, that the video and the slide presentation will all be sent out to the membership by the end of this week. So whatever you missed, you'll be able to see it. Kim's just going to take the best parts of both morning and afternoon to put it together. 2021 membership. So stats through September 30th. You can see that throughout the year, going back to the end of last year, we've gained 65 new members. We lost 65 at the end of last year. We've gained 275 during the year, but have seen another 210 sell their homes and resign. So that gets you to the plus 65. In addition, there's been an increase of 108 resident members from the non-resident. And while we continue to have about 77% of the homes within the community having membership, that includes the lots that have not been built upon, homes or lots owned by builders, condo owners, and members who own multiple properties within St. James. So the real number is closer to about 85%. The total build out, as I understand it, is going to be close to 5,000. 2022 membership. We are continuing with the Premier Upgrade Initiative with an upgrade fee of $7,500. For those Premier members interested, keeping in mind that right now Premier members represent only about 5% of our total membership. Those with refundable deposits can apply their refundable amount against the upgrade fee. Beginning in January of 22, the initiation fee is going to increase from $20,000 to $25,000. The activation fee is going to stay the same at $5,000. And this is the first increase of an initiation fee since 2014. Dues for 2022 will be increasing by just under 6% for all three membership categories: social, sport, and golf. There are a couple of factors driving this increase. First, inflation itself is listed to be at about 5.6%. In addition to the increased pricing, we have to pay more to our staff in order to attract more associates and in order to get quality, not only in F&B, but in all of our departments. Like I mentioned earlier, in the kitchen alone, we've given 2 separate increases in the past 4 months. We're in a different world right now, and the only way we can attract viable candidates is to pay more. Restaurants and businesses in our area and throughout the country have had to reduce their hours of operation, and many have even closed because they can't find staff. In our area, we should be the first choice for residents to work, and it starts with the pay. Sure, Troon offers good benefits, better benefits than many of the other facilities, businesses out there, but that only goes so far. Obviously, we've looked closely at what's happening in the area and across the country with other clubs. Nearly every club of nearly 500 that were surveyed state that it's more difficult than in the past to attract hourly labor. Hourly wages in the past 3 years have increased by approximately 20%. The average dues increases among the 494 clubs surveyed is between 6 and 12%. Looking locally at similar facilities, Landfall, Daniel Island, and the Landings, their dues increases range from 7 to 12%. Troon Privé clubs' average increases are in excess of 10%. The next couple of slides show our fees as compared to several other similar facilities, and you'll be able to view these slides in more detail when we send out the link later in the week. Again, these are unprecedented times. In prior years, the average increase tended to be in the 3% range or less. Don't lose sight, too, as a private club, most other private clubs out there have capital assessments. I want to give you an idea of what we have done from a capital expenditure standpoint over the last 7 years. Keep in mind, 2, 4, 6, 7. Keep in mind the first 3 years were pre-Troon acquisition, the other 4 were after Troon acquired. First 3 years, the average spend was about $800,000. Over the last 4 years, and this doesn't include the work that was done in response to Hurricane Florence, the last 3 years the average spend's been $2.4 million, the last 4 years $2.1 million. That comes to about $1.5 million more that we've been spending over the last, since the acquisition. So what are the plans for capital spending in 2022? We have plans to upgrade and refresh founders and members clubhouses, and we'll certainly keep an eye too on players. We have plans to improve the space at Seaside Pool and get the design in place for expansion and upgrading. We're going to replace the pool liner and the deck surfaces at Founders and Mac pools, replacement of range mat surfaces, replacement of dining chairs, patio furniture at Reserve and Founders, replacement of pool furniture at Seaside, LED lighting for the tennis courts, replacement of the shade canopy at Seaside Tennis, expansion and resurfacing of the parking lot for Founders, and planning on installing new irrigation for Founders Golf Course late 22 and early 23. That's a pretty healthy list of improvements, and we recognize the need to spend money in order to continue to provide quality offerings and amenities. We really do look forward to getting 2021 and 2020 behind us and moving on to 2022. It's got to be better, and we're going to make it happen. As far as other changes on the golf side, no changes to number of rounds for social and sport. The annual cart plan is going to go up by $10 a month for family, $5 per single. There will not be any changes to food and beverage minimum. Additional benefits, you can see the slide for Troon Privé. I'm happy to say that nearly half of our membership has taken advantage of Troon Privé program. More recently, Troon became the managing body for Grand Dunes in the Myrtle Beach area, and I know a number of our members have already started to take advantage of that relationship. That's all I've got. Thank you all for coming.